Welcome to Leadership for Startups, where we help entrepreneurs and leaders build businesses that grow and flourish. My name is Toyo Shimbi, your host. Welcome to episode 17. Today is going to be a solo cast, a short one. It is heading towards the end of 2019, and I'm guessing many of us are thinking about plans for the year, what's happened, and looking into 2020. Can you imagine? We finally got to that 2020 when we can actually talk about having a 2020 vision. Today, I want to talk about vision. I'm putting together a program that is towards helping entrepreneurs build businesses that grow and flourish. And I'm going to be dropping some of the ideas that I have onto these podcasts. And I want to get your feedback. You can go to leadershipforstartups.com and you can communicate with me there, engage with me there. And the first module that I want to talk about is on vision. And I'm going to call it sight, having sight. One of my mentors, John Maxwell, is known for saying that the leader sees the furthest. And I absolutely believe that vision is one of the key elements that an entrepreneur, a leader needs to have, especially when it comes to creating an organization that's going to thrive, that's going to take its employees to the next level. Now, there are many reasons why vision is important. I'm going to give you 4 reasons why this is so. Number 1, it engages the leader, him or herself, in terms of what they are passionate about. So there's a self-motivation for you when you have a clear vision. Now, if you're taking that same vision into an organization, into building an organization, what it also does is that you know where the organization is going. And in as much as one of the 21 laws of leadership is that the people buy into the leader and then the vision, which is a very important principle, having that vision enables the people to have an idea of where the organization is going. This becomes one of the key areas when it comes to attracting top talent to your business. The second reason why having a vision is important is that people invest in something that is bigger than just themselves. So having a vision gives that clarity around, wow, I am investing in something that's bigger than me, than the organization, because it's out to achieve something that is bigger than the norm. And that's why having a very good, clear vision really helps. The third is that it gives that work meaning. Many of you might have heard of the story of the janitor of when NASA said they're going to place a man on the moon by the end of the decade. And the story goes that a few months later, JF Kennedy went to visit NASA, saw a janitor was sweeping the floor and says, well, what are you doing here? And the man's reply is, I am helping to place a man on the moon. And that means that that vision gave that janitor meaning for his work. And I believe that that's a very important part. And the last is that having a clear vision, one of the benefits is that it makes it easier to raise up more leaders, because these leaders will buy into the whole vision, and then they will be able to take it in some situations far beyond where maybe you can even take it, especially if it's one of those businesses that's going to be around for many years and it needs to have a succession plan. So these are some benefits of having a clear vision for your organization. But when it comes to this vision, what you're going to find is that there's a lot of talk about it, and sometimes it gets mixed up. And over the years, I think I've done a podcast on this before, but I just want to make this the central piece of this podcast, which is that when we talk about vision, the reason why sometimes it gets a bit complicated is that there are some ingredients that really help to form a vision statement. And there are actually 4 elements that I believe are essential when it comes to having this vision statement. And so rather than calling it a vision statement, what I am going to call it is having sight. That's right. SIGHT, sight. So what are the 4 elements? Well, the first thing that I believe is absolutely important is having a clear purpose for your business. And with these 4 elements that I'm going to be mentioning, there's going to be just one key question that I'm going to ask, that if you can figure out what that question is, if you have a team and you go away and you put these 4 questions in front of you, I believe that it will help really create the clarity that's needed. So the first question is, why do we exist? And that's the purpose question. It's the mission. It's why does this organization exist? Now, in many situations, an organization should really exist to serve its customers, to add value to its customers, whether it's a product or a service. And so somehow you've got to figure out what is the product and how is that uniquely benefiting its customers. So that's the first question. Why do we exist? Another way of figuring that out could be asking the negative version of that question, which is, if we did not exist, what would the world miss? If we did not exist, what would the world miss? Now, think about some of the companies that we have today that have really transformed our way of living. Microsoft, as an example, Google, as an example, Tesla, as an example, Apple, as examples that if you were to ask yourself the question, wow, if these companies did not exist, surely the world is missing something. And this can go on to many other things. There's a movie called Yesterday, which if you haven't watched it, I'm going to spoil it a bit. But this guy has some kind of accident and somehow the world has missed out on the Beatles, all of the Beatles songs. And he can remember all the Beatles songs and he starts playing them and people are saying, this is just amazing music. And in a short while, he becomes a superstar. But what it simply shows is that people know what is good. And so your organization, if it is there to add value to people, then if it didn't exist, the world is missing something. So that will be the reason why you exist. So that's the first area. The second area that I also believe is really important for you to have clarity around would be core principles. Core principles. And the question you can ask yourself is, what do we stand for? What do we stand for? And normally this would be 3, 4, maybe maximum 5 core things that you want to stand for. Yes, there's the integrity. Yes, there's the discipline, but it could be different. It could be, relationships, or it could be valuing the customer. There are different ways these days that you can articulate this. It doesn't always just have to be one word. It could be a phrase, and maybe I'll do another separate podcast on that. But it's a very important question to ask, because this is also going to help when it comes to attracting your top talent, because in some situations, you can have top talent that is highly intelligent, but not necessarily hold to the same principles as you do. And so as you go about creating this vision statement, this site, you also want to have around you people that also have the same principles that you do. Now, you notice that I use the word principles because in a previous podcast, I talked about the 6 P's of highly productive people. And the number one thing was being principle centered. And one of the things I mentioned is that in the past, we've used core values, but I want to change that to say that I believe that we should value principles over just values. And if you actually stick with principles, which means that they're timeless, like truth and honesty would never really change. And when you begin to start to value some of those principles, I believe that it actually sets a good boundary for your organization, that this is what we hold to and it's timeless. It's not going to change because of the fashion or the generation. It could be something that can be cascaded down to different generations. So that's the second thing. Now, the third, now we're getting into vision, right? And the third is actually envisioning the future. It's envisioning the future. And the question is this: what would the world look like when we've accomplished our purpose? What would the world look like when we have accomplished our purpose? Now, in many situations, your purpose perhaps really never gets accomplished, right? In many situations, but it is good to imagine what that would look like. There's some simple purpose statements or vision statements that make it very clear of what that would look like. So, for instance, if it's an organization that is involved in cancer research, they could have a vision of seeing the world free from cancer. And that means that they have accomplished their vision, their purpose. And so having that idea is very important, because what we human beings thrive on is imagining a better future. There's something that gives more energy when you actually can see a world getting better. And as I said earlier, visions like that, they actually attract a lot of top talent, number one. Number two, they engage people. And number three, they give everybody's work meaning. So that third question there, what does the world look like when we have accomplished our purpose? It actually does engage a lot. Now, the last piece out of the 4 areas that I'm talking about, we can now start going down into goals. And the goals would be a way of measuring how we are doing with regards to our overall vision and purpose, right? So it's almost like you need to sort of measure your way and how are we doing, how are we achieving. Now, this would normally be then written, if it's an organization, it could be in terms of number of customers, it could be in terms of number of users, it could be in terms of revenue, profits. That it's up to you on how you now want to start quantifying. But I think if you've got those 3 in place, I think it should help you to not only just measure maybe one thing, but maybe making sure that it's balanced. And that would be setting goals and objectives around this. And so how will we measure our progress towards the purpose? How would we measure our progress? And that's where you got to define that yourself. Now, Jim Collins from Good to Great, he uses the term big, hairy, audacious goal, which means that it is such a big goal that you want to put it out there and it's something that you're striving to achieve. And then by having that, then you can cascade that down into yearly, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, etc., just so that you're measuring your way towards this. So that's what I wanted to just mention today. And there's going to be 8 more of these that are coming. So today we're looking at sight. And if you want to just take your team away and just simply put those 4 questions in front of you, have clarity around this, I think it would really help a lot. But before I go, let me give you a few examples of what this potentially might sound like, right? So the whole vision of things. Now, as I said earlier, put a man on the moon by the end of the decade and bring him safely home was the vision of NASA that JF Kennedy declared. And that's a very clear, vivid vision and purpose in terms of what they were trying